Hey, what's up, Michigan? Welcome to the wrap-up of the boys basketball season. This is State Champs at the State Finals, presented by the great men and women with Lawrence Technological University. Now, if you have the curiosity of what it takes to become an architect, say an engineer, a scientist, a media professional, an entrepreneur, designer, a roboticist, a graphic designer, the list goes on and on. Hey, at Lawrence Tech, not only are you provided with a laptop loaded to the gills with all the industry software you could possibly need for your major for free, it's the people, the amazing faculty, the support staff that truly allow you to make magic. Your journey starts at ltu.edu. Be curious, make magic. Hey, my name is Lorne Plant. I have my fellow Hang Time host, TJ Kelley, with me as promised. The slate of games we got at the Breslin Center, both in the semifinals and the finals, didn't disappoint. Another sweet slate of games.
Well, I tell you what, it started off with the Thursday games, and I was surprised with, let's say this. I was happy that all the teams played to their utmost ability, I thought. Then going into the semifinals on Friday, everything continued. Saturday, I mean, we thought that the teams were going to win. They were pretty much there. But, yeah, hats off to all the champions and all those that wound up participating in the playoffs and the semifinals.
No doubt, just another great weekend of basketball. We're here to discuss the boys' state finals that took place now. For the first time, I would imagine it was on St. Patrick's Day weekend, so that was exciting. Certain teams seemed to had the luck of the Irish going for them, while others could not achieve the ultimate dream of a state title. But make no mistake, a state finals appearance is an incredible feat for any program. Winning it, of course, winning is the icing on the cake. And just for the record, TJ's predictions after our quarterfinal show were 50-50. So not horrible. Hey, you know what I mean? We'll take that, if you're rolling dice. But it just gives more credence to the saying, that's why they play the game.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's easy to look at rosters and say this team should win, this team. Well, they've got more size here. They've got, there are a lot of things that go in. And again, we'll have to remind ourselves that these are high school kids and that they are still developing. And one way can take another way, and a turn for the better or a turn for the worse. And, at the end of the day, that's why they're playing the game. You got the referees out there doing a great job, too.
That's right. Let's work our way in the order the games were played for this show. We'll start with the morning game that took place on Saturday in Division IV. We had Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart taking on Wyoming Tri-Unity Christian. Now, you had Inner City Baptist winning the title, but Sacred Heart rode that stifling defense that got them into the Final Four into Saturday's finale. Now, Sacred Heart held Inner City Baptist to 25.6% shooting from the field overall, 11 of 43, just 3 of 15 from three-point range. Your thoughts on Sacred Heart just advancing to the championship game for the first time in 18 years?
Well, they played Wyoming Tri-Unity early in the season, and so many times we've talked about upping your schedule so that you can get ready for these games. Obviously, Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart's lost to Tri-Unity, or just scheduling them earlier in the year, really helped them overcome and wind up, beating this Allen Park Inner City Baptist team. Hats off to Mark Kratz and the crew in Allen Park. But yeah, just a little bit too much firepower from the Mount Pleasant crew.
Yeah, so Wyoming Tri-Unity Christian with back-to-back appearances in the title tilt. Now they fell to Munising in the championship in 23, won the title in 22, lost in 21 to Detroit Douglas in the semifinals versus St. Ignace. Senior star Johnny Ingles for the Saints got his to the tune of 31 points. It wasn't stopped, but it wasn't enough. Mark Keeler knows how to craft a game that ultimately proves depth and experience will win the day. The Defenders won their 23rd game of the season and made another finals.
Hey, they might as well call. Let's say this: Coach Keeler has stepped his way up, and I remember joking with him last year about how many more wins he needs to reach with Dave Souls from an East Catholic or a Lofton Green from River Rouge. And when it's all said and done, I don't know how much more gas Keeler has in the tank. I remember watching a video not long ago. He had a nice mustache when he started, 25, 30 years ago. And the evolution of facial hair has dissolved. But, yeah, I mean, this is truly a place where, they should almost have a statue of him. They should have a Keeler Award. I don't know if it's a Division IV or whatever they want to, the Division II champ or Division IV or Class D champion or whatever. But yeah, there's got to be some honoring that's going to go on for Coach Keeler. And hats off to Tri-Unity Christian. Definitely played as a team and got everything done at the end of the day. They didn't beat Sacred Heart as bad as they did the first time, but still came through with a solid win, winning by 20.
No doubt. So the Sacred Heart Irish had a chance for redemption. They had suffered a 71-41 loss to Tri-Unity Christian in the second game of the season. And ironically, the last time they were in the finals was back in 2006. It was against Keeler and Tri-Unity Christian. So same result. The team that lost by a bucket to Munising in 23 completed their revenge tour, defeating Sacred Heart 79-59, sixth state championship under Mark Keeler. And what the Irish are able to do defensively against St. Ignace could not be matched in the championship game. Tri-Unity Christian shot basically 70% from the field, 42% from three-point range, and that's going to get it done. The big difference was the second quarter, which saw Tri-Unity Christian score 22 points, take a 17-14 lead after the first into a 25 lead at halftime, and they just really never looked back from there.
Yeah, I mean, shooting near 50% from the three-point line, I mean, that's good enough to get wins. I mean, you talk about shooting 70% from the field. I mean, if you looked over the history, and I don't care what level of basketball you're looking at, from Catholic youth, all the way up to, 35 and over leagues, you're shooting 70%. You're going to wind up winning those games. And sometimes life comes at you, and you got to just roll with the punches. And, if I lose by 20 points and they shoot 70% from the field, I might have to be one of those. Sometimes you just take it on the chin and you keep it moving.
So from the CYO to the AAU to the MHSAA, shoot 50%, you're going to win.
Yeah,
95% of your games. All right, well, congratulations to Wyoming Tri-Unity Christian. Maybe TJ won't pick against you next year because recent history tells us the defenders will be back to the Breslin. All right, next on the slate, let's move to the Division I game, the lunchtime brouhaha between North Farmington and the number one team in the state, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I do not believe that we would have penciled that matchup at the start of the season. Maybe the Eaglets, but not the Raiders. After all, 2016, the last time the team competed on the Michigan State floor, but this was a team that fought its way here, beginning with their semifinals victory over Zeeland West. That was a 58-39 win for North Farmington. It was a game of runs for the Raiders, and outscoring the Ducks 23-14 in the third is all but sealed it.
Yeah, I mean, even to start off that game, I think the game started off with North Farmington with an 8-0 run. Zeeland West comes back with a 7-0 run, and North Farmington goes back, for a 6-0 run. Here we've got Tyler Spratt. I thought that he was arguably, obviously you've got Trey McKinney, but he was just as important and put up phenomenal stats throughout the playoffs and also his senior year. I mean, maybe carrying that chip on his shoulder. Hey, I wasn't Mr. Basketball. Now North Farmington versus Zeeland West, I get to go against Mr. Basketball. Yeah. I thought they did a fantastic job of keeping Merritt Alderink in check. He had 1 point entering the fourth quarter. And whenever you could stop somebody's best player or one of their leading scorers on this one, it's only going to be beneficial for you in the long run or for your team in the long run.
Yeah.
So hats off to the Raiders, did a fantastic job. And it's good to see Todd Negocian get over that hump so that they could have the battle of the Todds in the championship game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, in the other D1 semifinal, boy, OLSM just put on a clinic. Now, Ann Arbor Huron came in one of the hottest teams in the state, but the Eaglets were a machine in their 82-42 win. Orchard Lake had that terrible taste of what happened in the semis versus Muskegon a year ago on that floor. They put the pedal to the metal. Eaglets scored 14 of the game's first 17 points, increased their lead to 39-17 at the half, 57-29 at the end of three, hitting 53% of their shots from the floor, including 9 of 18 from the 3-point line. And, I mean, it was just very, very impressive. And you could see a team ultimately motivated.
Yeah, well, and the Hurons, they do have depth on their team. But I'm sure that Orchard Lake was watching some of those games, their prior wins over Novi Catholic Central. And then you also have East Lansing.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what, we're taking chance out of this. we're going to go out there. We're going to take care of business. Will be no buzzer beaters, especially if they're watching any of the games, especially from Division III in the semifinals the day before, where they just, I mean, they came out there, and like they said, there was a business trip, came out there, took care of business, and pretty much said, hey, no referees, there's going to be nothing that's going to get on our way about this win, and if I'm not getting it done, then there's somebody on the bench who can come in and fill my role. And, yeah, it was pure efficiency. I know that Todd Covert, you know, he's probably hitting, let's say, 190-yard 8-irons. After that, he was on cloud 9, as they get to say.
That's right.
A steal one from Carl Spagler there.
Right. So as we moved our way into the finale, liking Class D, the underdog, North Farmington in this case, also with revenge on the brain. St. Mary's had ousted North Farmington from the last 2 state tournaments. And call it a man on a mission, call it locked in, call it by any means necessary. But one of the most sought-after recruits in the nation, ESPN has him the 13th best player in the country right now in their ESPN 60. Surely he will climb that list. 14 offers from the biggest college basketball programs in the country. Trey McKinney scored 32 points in Orchard Lake St. Mary's 63-52 win over North Farmington, the first Division I/Class A state title in school history. Head coach Todd Covert had tears in his eyes. This was a basketball team that was not leaving East Lansing without a trophy in tow.
Yeah, and the Eaglets are the first team to win championships in all 4 divisions, whether it be Division I/Class A all the way down to Division IV/Class D. You know, I think that just in itself is a huge accomplishment. Then you look at Trey McKinney, and one of the best things, and I know coaches are so happy when they see this, when you have your best player that's locked in, that's zoned in, that's the first one in the gym, the last one out the gym, that if he's setting the tone, then it makes it that much easier for everybody else, for the coach to say, hey, look, this is how it's done, because you have the example right there. Hats off to Trey McKinney. Hats off to everybody else. Sherrod Barnes had a phenomenal weekend. Bugsy Smythe wound up going off in the semifinal in that win. So, yeah, they could beat you many different ways, and what a luxury for Todd Covert and their staff to be able to walk through and say, hey, I got you, I got you, I got you, I got you, I got you. And also, hats off to them. And, I picked them to win again next year. And from everything that I'm hearing, Trey McKinney will be returning. So we'll look forward to seeing the Eaglets back at the Breslin next year. At least I will, so I won't be wrong.
And you mentioned Mr. Basketball. And so now, after you picked OLSM to be number 1 in Michigan, I think we can successfully say that the Mr. Basketball campaign officially begins for one Trey McKinney. Now we're going to move to Division III. 2 teams that had never experienced a state final. Niles, Brandywine taking on Detroit Old Redford. Now, TJ did not get Division III right in his predictions, as he had Riverview Gabriel Richard winning the whole enchilada. Well, the Pioneers didn't get past the salsa and the chips, right? But instead, Detroit Old Redford gave Tengo mucho apetito to the semifinals. The Ravens were trailing by a point with 2 seconds to go as Justin Austin inbounded the ball in the near court left side on the floor to junior Arkell Boyd, drained a heavily contested three-pointer just before the buzzer. Ravens get a 43-41 win over Gabriel Richard.
If I'm going to lose, I don't mind losing on those kind of shots, buzzer beaters. That means that somebody was ready and they stepped up to the challenge. And it's always great to see kids step up to the challenge when that opportunity comes along. There will be no regret from Arkell Boyd. I know that they obviously wound up losing in the finals.
Yeah.
But still, this is a young team. Ray Reeves probably looking forward to. I mean, he's got the firepower where he can come back and want to make it another trip to the Breslin again next year. But yeah, hats off to Old Redford, especially after Jaquan Stennis winds up fouling out. And it's almost like, hey, you lose your best player. All right, you need somebody else to step up. And that's what Arkell Boyd did. And hats off to them. And, hey, the Ravens definitely had it rolling, and then they wound up in what I thought was a fantastic Division III championship, but we're going to talk about that right now.
We will. And it was a great moment for them, just seeing them all on the floor, piling on, just getting to the finals, and really stepping up and doing it in a magical way. Now, in the other D3 matchup to get to the championship, and in very similar fashion, Niles Brandywine trailing McBain by 2 points with seconds to go, except here, Brandywine appeared to be done because Jeremiah Palmer missed a jumper that would have tied the game, but The senior Brian Lindley there for an offensive putback just before the buzzer that sent it into overtime. And then after McBain got the first 4 points of the extra period, Brandywine answered with the next 7, the last 3 on a 3-pointer by senior Jatorian Smith with about 19 seconds left, and that was ultimately the difference. 51-48 Brandywine victory, and they were off to the finals.
Hey, hats off to Niles Brandywine, their first championship. Their coach wound up going to Niles Brandywine, so you really have a real organic feel to their championship. There really is no recruiting when it comes to Niles Brandywine. Either you live there or you don't live there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that this game was a battle of bigs in the middle with McBain, or all the size that they had, and then you look at all the size or the guards that Niles Brandywine had. Evan Hammerkamp at 6'9", 6'8". He was a beast in the post. Did a fantastic job. I thought for the rest of the, which pretty much catapulted them, to, let's say this, to a near win.
Yeah.
Just wasn't enough. JT Smith
right there.
Comes down, hits the 3 that he's probably been dreaming about hitting ever since he was a kid in the driveway or wherever he was at the park, shooting around and stuff like that. Now here comes the opportunity, and boom, wound up hitting that 3. I'm sure that he won't have to pay for any Frosties or anything like that. And he's in the Southwest Michigan area, Michiana, as they so did remind me. But yeah, hats off to them, and just a phenomenal game. So
we had 2 first-time finalists in the D3 championship, both going for their first hardware. Niles Brandywine able to hold off Detroit Old Redford 56-48. So their first and only state title. The senior guard Jeremiah Palmer was the man in that game. The steal and the slam that he had in the third was really the statement moment of that contest. But he had 18 points, 6 boards, 3 steals. And this is a team that now has 51 wins over the past 2 seasons.
And again, a testament to hard work, to everybody being on the same page, and talking with the players, talking with the coach. After in the post game, it was something that did they get caught up in the bright lights a year ago? Was their depth perception, and just as far as shooting, I don't know if anybody's ever gone out there and had an opportunity to shoot at the Breslin Center or anything like that, but it's like going outside to a park when you have no background except for the tree that's 50 feet away or something like that, and you really have everything short of the chain linked netting. It was one of those things where you had to really be up there and get your practices and shots in, and then know what you're focusing on, rather than just going up there and treating it like a regular high school game where you have the the wall 5 feet behind, 10 feet behind the backboard. So, but yeah, hats off to them for being prepared, and they knew what they had to do, and fortunately they wound up coming through and carrying home the hardware.
That's right. And some young stars on that Brandywine squad, and the Old Redford team saw all 48 of their points scored by underclassmen. So we talked about this at the onset of the show. We could see a repeat in this matchup next season.
Yeah, well, Niles Brandywine, they got to reload a little bit. They do have, they lose the Palmer twins,
but they had a couple sophomores.
But they do have the sophomores.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I love to see it, especially with local schools, with neighborhood schools. Let me say it like that.
Yeah.
Where they have kids that are looking up to them and saying, hey, I want to be like you. They're kids that are 13, 14 years old, 15 years old, maybe the freshmen and sophomores who didn't play. I would say, hey, this is what I got to do to get better. Be able to reach out to the Palmers, be able to reach out to some of the seniors. Hey, what do I have to do to make sure that I can achieve the same, the levels that you have with the championship?
Yeah.
And so we'll see how that carries on.
And even if they didn't play in the game, maybe they're on the bench or maybe they're in the stands, they got to see and feel what it's like. And then, of course, they've won a title now, so they're believers in themselves. Let's move on to the nightcap in Division II. A great matchup between 2 teams who met earlier in the season, Warren Lincoln and Grand Rapids Christian. Cougars came into the semis, a team for a knack of just meaning business, right? All season long, they get up on you. Yeah, you might find yourself getting within striking distance at some point, but Grand Rapids Christian have been closers for the majority of the year. Now, Chelsea battled, as we knew they would, but the Cougars end up winning that one 50-41 to advance.
Yeah, it was a heck of a game. Hats off. We talked about Jake Stevens numerous times on this broadcast. You're talking about, in my opinion, North Georgia, the Division II school, is getting a heck of a player. Great job recruiting by Dan Evans down there. And I want to say this for those that are thinking that Division II isn't good enough or isn't this or isn't that. I just want you to look at Nathan Johnson from Grand Rapids Christian and Jake Stevens. Now, Nate Johnson hasn't decided where he's going to go play, but if you think you can battle with Jake Stevens, and that's an easy test, you can go out there and ask Jalen Owinga, who's headed to Toledo, and you can go ask some of the other guys who are Division I players that he's played against, and kind of give you a better measurement and a better test of, let's say, the better gauge of what your level is. Because if you're thinking that guy's going to kick your butt, well, there you got plenty of guys down on the Division II level that are equally willing to do that. We're also 21, 22 years old, and not 18 like, Jake Stevens.
Right.
But hats off to Chelsea, hats off to Chelsea for their run.
Yeah.
But then Grand Rapids Christian and Eric Taylor did a fantastic job. Eric coming through with having a mild stroke. Nothing is mild about that, but having a stroke, prior to the season, and having those guys really respond and say, let's go win fun for coach. They may end up making a trip to the championship and at least giving it a shot. Absolutely.
Now, Warren Lincoln coming in, another team who consistently was one of the best teams in the state, let alone Division II. Now, they took on a very good Flint Powers team. The Abes beat Powers 60-48 to get their first crack at a title. How impressive was the bench in the state semifinals? Warren Lincoln's subs outscored Powers 27-1, including a 19-7 run over 10 minutes from the last minute of the first quarter all the way to the 7:10 mark of the third. This team's depth was too much for Powers to counter.
They do have a lot of depth, and that's what I thought that was important, why I picked Warren Lincoln to wind up winning this game. And we also talk about how important guard play is. Obviously, you have the Blackwell twins, but when you can start coming off the bench with TJ Minor, you can start coming off the bench with some other guys, and it's all about being ready for that time. I know that Wydell Henry always talks about that. Ever since you've been watching him, I've been knowing him for 15, 20 years. But I know that he brought that same kind of energy, that same kind of mindset from his Pershing days over to Warren Lincoln, and done a fantastic job of rebuilding this program. I think he's his fifth or sixth year. And again, if you go around and you look at Warren Lincoln's high school, you go look at their all-state players. There is not one basketball involved in any of that stuff. There's maybe one guy two guys with a football, but other than that, it's slap your head upside the head, wrestling, cauliflower ear, and all that great stuff. But we're gonna. I'm just saying that's what Warren Lincoln and the Abes have been known for. And then of course Marshall Mathers showing up, and showing up in the upper tier and stuff like that for that championship game. Keeping a low profile.
That's right.
But that's what Warren Lincoln is known for. But now they've got basketball in there as well.
So heading into the final, Warren Lincoln had beaten Grand Rapids Christian 49-47 earlier in the season, so these teams did know each other. And get this, Grand Rapids Christian was playing for our first championship since winning the Lower Peninsula Class B title in 1938 in Class B. Now, they were, of course, in the Class A championship, lost to Clarkston in 2017. The junior Marcus Blackwell was a stud all weekend, 24 points and 4 of 5 from beyond the arc. Wydell Henry and Warren Lincoln, state champs, final score 53-39.
And again, another team that shot a high percentage from the field, from 3-point and also the field goal percentage, regular field goal percentage. But yeah, these guys were ready. They had the support of the crowd. And if you look at the crowd, 3/4 of the crowd was Grand Rapids Christian fans.
Oh, 100%.
And Warren Lincoln had that one sliver.
Yeah.
And, it was about 50 seconds to go in the game, and Wydell turns around, Coach Henry turns around to the Lincoln faithful, the guys with their 1989 varsity jackets. I caught a couple of those guys in there. When he got to throw his hands up, and he was like, hey, unless they go on, unless Reggie Miller or Isaiah Thomas step in this game, they're not scoring 15 points in this next 50 seconds.
Right.
And now there was a time to celebrate. And, hats off to Warren Lincoln. Hats off to Grand Rapids Christian. Jalen Owinga did a fantastic job. Here we have number 32, Nate Johnson, feeding him there, and then he got a nice bucket there. And they just didn't shoot the ball well enough, I didn't think, in watching that game. I think they maybe only had 1 3 and just maybe a couple of buckets outside of 15 feet. And so, yeah, Grand Rapids Christian could have stood to have a little bit of a mid-range game, 3-point game involved. But, yeah, hats off to Warren Lincoln for doing their job, sticking to the game plan. Defense and offense, it's a tough combination to win, or a tough combination to beat.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And hats off to the MHSAA for another great weekend. Always fantastic being out there at the Breslin Center. And this year, boys got to do it before the girls. So the girls are going to get going there next weekend. So just want to thank you guys for watching. That is our show. I want to thank TJ Kelley. I want to thank the entire State Champs production team, including our producer, Robbie Elliott, for his hard work and their hard work all season. I'm Lorne Plant. Thanks for watching this boys basketball edition of State Champs at the State Finals. We'll see you next year.
See you in a few months.
State Champs at the State Finals is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Be curious, make magic. Visit ltu.edu. State Champs at the State Finals is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, a proud sponsor of the MHSAA. The Detroit Athletic Club Foundation Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards. To see previous winners, go to dacathleteoftheyear.com.